Hey guys, welcome back to the Youth Got Next podcast. We are so excited to be here. If you're watching this, you can see the setup looks a little different. And if you're listening to it, it's different because there are 6 of us here. I'm here with
Tom Demers,
Ethan Ormsby,
Isaac Sladen.
I'm Miles Richardson.
Nathaniel Nelson.
And I'm Sophie Hoagie.
And so what we did is we decided what we want to do as we walk through this podcast is take some breaks every now and then and just do something that is just so practical on something that you guys might be walking through or dealing with right now, today. And as we were kind of thinking about what topic that would be, we realized we had a really successful invite night just a couple weeks ago. It was awesome.
Amazing.
And we have another one coming up on May 1st. And so for a second, I'd like to just sit here and completely unscripted, just have a conversation about why do we focus on invites? What is an invitation? What's the purpose of one? What's the power of one? So what would you guys say is an invite is or why you should invite someone?
Yeah, I can start. I remember for me growing up, a lot of people in my family are in ministry. My dad's a pastor of a church in Texas, and so a lot of the times in my head it was kind of like I treated inviting friends as like a chore or like a kind of an annoyance at times where it's like, I guess I have to invite them because I'm the pastor's kid, and so I will. And for a long time, my heart was not in the right place in that. And so first I would just encourage people to like check that side of inviting. But on the practical side, like it is such a powerful thing to do out of just one like simple act of obedience, I think, is just to invite somebody because you never know what God may do in one service, one day, one event. In someone's life. And so that's at least what I've experienced when it comes to that.
That's good.
Yeah, that reminded me.
Go ahead.
That reminded me of what Paul writes, where he says, like, I planted the seed, but Apollos watered, and God brought the growth. So you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, you see a little seed and you don't see the roots, but God is growing that the entire time.
Yeah.
That's good.
I just think of the fact that we belong before we believe. I mean, that's true even for those of us who grew up in church. We're a part of the church. We don't believe. Sure. We're not members. We're not a part of the body, but we're here. And that's true of students.
Sure.
We belong before we believe, and they have to come inside.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think of is every unasked question is no. Right?
Yeah.
You didn't ask me to go. Why
That's
didn't you
good.
show up? You didn't ask me. So ask the question.
Yeah.
You may get a yes.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't
That's
take,
exactly
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a quote about that somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like every 10 people you ask, you might get one. And for me, inviting people it's not just about like, oh, he needs to be at church. It's not just like, oh, I just want my buddy here to be at church. It's like I see people who live a certain way, and I know that they need it. And that's one of my biggest motivations in getting people in the building is that I know that it can and will change their life if they let God work on them.
And we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. I think that we cultivate invite nights because that's something that we want to see our students doing regularly. But I think the question I would ask is, how do you persist in inviting someone who you have already asked to come with you and they say no? Maybe you've asked them 10 times and they've continued to say no.
Yeah.
But they keep being the person that pops into your heart and mind.
I would say pray for boldness.
Yeah.
If
That's a
Paul
good first step.
said pray for boldness, that I would be bold in sharing the gospel, I think we should do the same. And also pray for favor with that person and ask God to move in their life.
Yeah.
He can do things, I think you've already said this, faster than we can in ways that we can't.
Yeah.
And so if we ask him to move, we should expect him to.
Yeah, the power for persistence comes through prayer.
Yes, that's good. The power for persistence comes through prayer. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Ethan, I know we talked a little bit earlier that you had kind of maybe a unique perspective on this because you were at Missouri State and you were kind of in the campus life. And that's a little different from, I think, any of our perspectives. But I think we're speaking to lots of different perspectives. And so what did inviting kind of look like for you? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I tried everything to like share my life with these guys, and in a fraternity, especially at Missouri State, you see just about every walk of life. They all come from different backgrounds, different faiths under a Christian denomination, and they probably would mostly grow up going to church or like seeing it. So they have a preconceived notion of what's going on. And when you're sharing your life with these guys, and they're kind of like, okay, I get it, you're you're a Jesus guy. Like you keep throwing Bible verses at me and your ideas. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But like, what if you come check out church one time? And it's refreshing for them to understand. Like, it's kind of validating for us as well. Of like, they're in their minds when they see someone else, whether it's like their pastor or someone else at a church in general, just meeting them and showing them the same love that you've shown them for however long. They're like, oh, there are more people who are living this out. And
That's good.
you have an opportunity to bring them into that and show them a new perspective on life than what they have either grown up seeing or what they've learned over the past couple of years, however long it's been.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. I think too, Isaac, as you talk about, your younger self maybe had a heart problem towards it sometimes. I think when I think of an invite, I think of it is hard to go and invite lost people to come to church because the usual answer that you expect is no.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you have a full understanding of what Jesus did for you in dying on the cross, being buried, resurrecting in 3 days, and then saying, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you that will save you for eternity, that news is too good to just sit on.
Yeah.
That's the kind of news that requires boldness that we get through prayer that leads to I've asked you 50 times.
Yeah.
I'm driving you nuts. But this is 51. Hey,
Yep.
we're doing invite night.
Yeah.
Will you
Guess
come?
what?
Come.
Yeah.
And so that's why we do invite nights.
Yeah.
We want to create purposeful atmospheres, purposeful moments where we can rally as a group, as a youth group, come together and say, we want to see the city of Springfield change. And that will only happen through the power of Jesus. And so we're going to go invite our friends to come and see the good news of what Jesus has done for them. And so we have another invite night coming up on May 1st.
May
and
1st.
hopefully this is encouraging for you guys as you
Yeah.
listen, that if you're on the fence about should I invite somebody to church or not, the answer is absolutely yes.
Yes.
If you're nervous about it, hey, we'd love to pray with you. We'd love to encourage you. But the answer will always be that person needs Jesus just as much as you do. Go get them. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I think it's important to remember too. It's like it's just the simple act of obedience is the goal. Like you don't have to know every detail. You don't have to know every answer. Like you don't have to you're not the one that's gonna save them. But inviting them to church in spaces like this that ultimately points them to Jesus who can.
That's right.
And that's the goal. And I think that's freeing too. Of you don't have. I don't know. I just remember growing up. Another thing for me was I kind of felt weighed down by the idea of having to know everything too, and just answering any question they had. And it's honestly freeing to just focus on that obedience of just asking and inviting and throwing it out there and just seeing what could happen. And I love how you mentioned invite night too, because I feel like in my head, that fits. Invite night, anyone that gets invited to an invite night is oh, okay. Those two words together make sense.
Yeah.
Sure. I love that. You know what I mean? And so we would encourage you too, who's God putting on your heart right now to invite?
Yep.
Send that text, DM them that graphic, tell them what God did for you last invite night or last midweek. You never know what those could do either.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you for being here, having this conversation. Hopefully for you, it was helpful as the listener to hear just some encouragement and some tips on how you can go and invite the lost people in your life, because it's one of the most important things that we as believers can do. So send this to somebody who maybe is on the fence on whether they're going to invite somebody or not. Hopefully this will encourage them. Keep tuning in to the podcast because we're going to keep having conversations just like this.
Yeah.
And we will see you next time.
Until next time.